Maureen O'Sullivan, please. Thank you.
Okay. Taoiseach, on the 1st of January in Dublin Castle, there was an impressive flag-raising ceremony to start the 100th anniversary of the Easter Rising. And there's an amazing array of launches and events that are happening, not just in Ireland, but also abroad, by a wide number of organisations. And we have a number of restoration works going on, Kilmainham Court, Pearse's Cottage. Now, it appears to me and others that this government and other governments would have preferred if the men and women from the GPO had been airlifted from there to Richmond Barracks and Kilmainham Jail. And so they would have bypassed Moore Street. But they didn't bypass Moore Street, and Moore Street is part of the evacuation route. And it also is a witness to quite a number of events, not just involving the leaders in 14 to 17, but ordinary men and women who took part, and also citizens in Dublin. Now, Shaftry and Associates carried out a wider assessment of the 1916 battlefield as part of the ministerial consent to carry out work. And I want to quote just a couple of quotes from it. The block exactly matches the terrace into which the majority of the GPO garrison escaped. The activities relating to the 1916 Rising, which took place in Moore Street, happened throughout the entire street, adjacent lanes, and within many of the buildings. And they specifically mention other buildings besides 14 to 17. Furthermore, the Venice Charter, Article 1 says, the concept of a historic monument embraces not only the single architectural work, but also the urban or the rural settings. And wherever traditional setting exists, it must be kept. No new construction, demolition or modification which would alter the relations of mass and colour must be allowed. So to me, that means the fabric of Moore Street and the area must be retained. Now, if you walk into Kilmainham Jail or Pearse's Cottage, or if you go to Bruna Boyna, you immediately get a sense of what it was like to have been there at that particular time. And that's what we could have at Moore Street. Now, I think it was last week or the week before, you launched a virtual reality tour of Easter 1916. Now, I don't want that to be part. That's what we'll have to do for Moore Street, when they have the opportunity to retain the authenticity of Moore Street. Now, Westport House was withdrawn from NAMA, and I believe there's a guideline in NAMA, Art Section 4.1.1, that for legitimate reasons in the public interest, this can happen. Now, the Minister and the government have the power to designate 14 to 17 a national monument. Why was that not extended to the rest of the terrace? Why have you abandoned what you called the laneways and pathways of history, and we're now leaving it to a vulture capitalist to look after the rest of that terrace and battlefield site?
Thank you. Taoiseach.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Deputy. I looked at this myself quite a number of years ago. And to put it mildly, the condition of the street and of the buildings on either side of what is a national monument were simply disgraceful. Disgraceful. I've listened to all the rows about the national monument, about what should or shouldn't be done about it. And so for that reason, Deputy O'Sullivan, the government purchased the national monument. It's had dragged on for so many years with so many different variations, given the fact that Dublin City Council, as the planning authority, have responsibility in respect of applications that come before it for planning permission, both in respect of Moore Street and the lanes of history both on the back of O'Connell Street and so on. So in respect of the centenary commemorations for 2016, government decided to purchase this for a sum of €4 million, and to restore this building in a proper, authentic and time of the period fashion. As I understand it, the maps show clearly in other documents that buildings on either side were either non-existent or in a state of collapse before the rising took place in 1916. And you are right that this was the centre of the end of the evacuation process from the side door of the GPO, in that the several hundred who evacuated the building were not in a position to go up Moore Street because of gunfire from the top of the rotunda. But Deputy O'Sullivan, what the government want to do for the people here and for posterity is to take the buildings where the surrender was commissioned from and preserve that as a national monument in respect of one of the first small countries to achieve its to strike out for independence politically and economically at the start of the 20th century. But the government don't own all the streets and the buildings on either side of 1417. The government do own, in respect of the people now, these buildings, and the intention is to have that restored in a proper and fitting fashion. It is not a case of just the vulture capitalists, the venture capitalists, or capitalists doing what they like in respect of the remainder of the surrounding area. The responsibility for planning and for approval of that lies initially with Dublin City Council, and beyond that, if there's an objection, by An Bord Pleanála, and that's independent of the process of government.
Thank you.
But I thought it appropriate, Deputy O'Sullivan, to be honest with you, that given what was happening and what was not happening, and nothing happening, that it was right that the government should say, purchase this in the interest of the people, preserving it as a lasting exhibition centre and an authentic recreation of what was there in 1916, when those who led the rising in the GPO said, let's decide to borrow through the houses to 1417, from where the order was given for Nurse O'Farrell to take the note in respect of surrender.
Thank you. Deputy O'Sullivan.
It's not just this government, it has been successive governments. So when you did the right thing with part of it, why could you not have gone further and have done the right thing with the whole area? In 2014 we had this exchange also, and you said to me that commemorative events had to be inclusive, sensitive and appropriate. Now I want to go back 2 weeks with just 14 to 17 first of all. The occupation should never have happened. But what happened on that Monday was completely disrespectful, undignified and insensitive to what had happened in 14 to 17. It was all cloak and dagger stuff. There was no conservation expert on hand to oversee the work that was going on. Somebody happened to arrive along and heard workers there with claw hammers. And no disrespect to the workers, but they didn't know where they were, what they were doing and the significance of the building. Now, there have been so many mistakes in the reports, and I just take one. Number 18 is in one conservation report saying that the facade was singled out as pre-1916. In another report it was omitted. And we know that once something is destroyed, it's gone forever. And we have examples of that. Now, so far, the government, the taxpayer, have paid 9 million. 4 million to buy and 5 has been designated for 14 to 17. My question is, whose plan are we following? Because it doesn't appear to be the state plan. It appears to be the plan that was drawn up by the developer, the same failed property developer who wanted to build over, under, around and on top of the National Monument. So that seems to be the plan that we're following. Now, I've just been at a meeting in City Hall with the Moore Street Forum, and Dublin City Council were represented. And of course, they're saying the Minister's responsibility, you're saying Dublin City Council have a responsibility. Now, there was a motion passed at Dublin City Council on the 11th of January, and that motion has to be taken on board by the Minister and by the Government. And because the government are passing it one way, Dublin City Council are passing it another way. There is a need, and I think the government and the minister have to take the lead on this, for all of the stakeholders to come together at the same time so that these matters can be addressed, because time is very much running out.
Well, I agree with you, Deputy O'Sullivan, that this had dragged on for years and years. Years and years, and there was never an agreed solution to the issue. And that's why I thought it appropriate that the government should acquire 1417 for the Irish public and for the Irish people, for the Irish diaspora. And that's why purchase price was agreed and a sum provided for the proper restoration of the building. Now, I think what I should do for you is arrange for you yourself to meet with the experts from the Office of Public Works who showed me the plans in advance of what they intended to do, both internally, sensitively, and the development of the building externally. I think that, as somebody who's interested in the place, that you should understand that. There's not just suddenly people are passing by and there are people working on 1417. It is to a very specific, very sensitive plan, because there are some elements inside the buildings that are genuinely authentic and can be restored or reproduced in the way that they were, to give a sort of a feeling of both the colours and the kind of material that was evident to those who were in the houses. There are other elements that are not. So I think I can arrange that for you so that you can see for yourself the professionalism that has gone into this. Maybe you don't agree. But believe me, it's not a case of a subcontractor moving in and saying, I think we should do this or this, but in a very sophisticated, very detailed analysis of the work to be carried out in 1417. And I think that the evidence will also be produced for you in respect of the buildings on either side. But what you're asking is that
Thank you.
Is that the state should have purchased all of Moore Street up as far as the Rotunda, where the O'Reilly was killed and so on. Sure, thank you. Obviously, the state purchased the central portion here for the people, and the Dublin City Council over the years have had rows about this interminably, and your own party, Deputy Adams, were no great help, if I might say so, in the middle of all those discussions. So Dublin City Council have a responsibility, and if they wish to set out a planning process or a plan and design that will still retain the lanes of history, as they call it, then that's their responsibility, and they have the authority to do that. The state, on behalf of the people, are now spending up to 9 million in Count Corla on the purchase and the restoration and the renovation and presentation of 1417 in a proper and fitting manner. And I'll arrange that meeting for you, Deputy O'Sullivan.
Thank you.